We thank you for coming to Highline Reads, our library's guest reader program on different topics for the adult set. Please stay after the recorded reading. What is it, Jennifer? 30
minutes.
30?
Yeah.
Okay. For questions, answers, comments afterwards, if you like, or if you're available. So live automated captions are available in Zoom. If the captions did not show up for you automatically, click on the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen to view subtitles. You can also click to view the full transcript so you can see what was said earlier. And if you'd rather not see the captions, you can also turn them off by selecting hide subtitle. So before we start our library program, we'd like to share a land acknowledgement and recognize the Indigenous people whose land we are on today. Highline College itself, and where many of us live and work, resides on ancestral native lands of the Duwamish Nation. And depending on the exact city where you are in this region, many of us live and work on the Muckleshoot, Duwamish, and Puyallup Nations Indigenous lands. We honor the land and give gratitude to the First Nations people that are here, who continue to steward this land since time immemorial. To learn more about Native Land, check out the Native Land Project and interactive map that my lovely assistant librarian Monica Twerk is putting in the chat. Further, we respectfully acknowledge the enslaved people, primarily of African descent, who provided exploited labor on which this country was built with little or no recognition. Today, we are indebted to their labor and the labor of many Black and Brown bodies during February, which is Black History Month, especially, that continue to work in the shadows for our collective benefit. We encourage you to learn more about Black studies on our library resource guide that Monica is putting in the chat. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jennifer Jones, also known as writer E. Gabriel Flores, who will read a short story called Mala Suerte from an award-winning short story that was featured in the Best American Mystery and Suspense 2021 and Ellery Queen magazine. The book is published by HarperCollins Publishers 2021. This short story is about how bad luck catches up with some folks who are up to no good. Dr. Jones shares, in my mystery/crime stories, the criminals will always get caught or thwarted, or else why write fiction, right? So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Jennifer Jones, E. Gabriel Flores.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank Jerry and Monica for putting this together. This is just such a wonderful thing for us to escape from our everyday work and whatever it is, as I say, all that's going on, and to get away and do something different and just put something different in our heads. So I'm just going to get right into it, and then there'll be time at the end for people to ask questions or make comments or what have you. And this story is called Mala Suerte, and by E. Gabriel Flores. As they drove away from the glass man's house, Carmelita asked the question that had haunted her all her life. Do you think bad luck is passed down in families? Is there really such a thing as a family curse? When you are a murderer on the run, accompanied by an accessory after the fact, you might as well discuss what brought you to this sorry pass. Better than worrying about what might happen next, bad luck-wise. The dead body in the trunk, a pale form loosely wrapped in an old green sleeping bag like an enormous California roll, could serve as bad luck exhibit A. Did mala suerte lurk in a person's DNA like a genetic disease, dormant until life circumstances triggered a flare-up? No, that's a ridiculous notion. Bad luck doesn't run in families. How could it? Her companion responded. There's no such thing as the evil eye or hexes or family curses. You make your own luck. I'm living proof of that. It was said in such a matter-of-fact way, it brooked no argument. But as a child, Carmelita had heard the stories that purported to explain the origins of bad luck, La mala suerte. A girl. Why does it always have to be a girl? Pops open a mysterious box and all the ill fortune flies out into the world. Why do bad things happen to good people? Well, see, it was the fault of that stupid little girl. Until you realize that the story leaves out the most important bits, like one, where did all that bad luck come from to begin with? And two, if you made a box strong enough to hold all the misfortune in the world, would you leave it lying around where any nosy kid with a penknife could get to it? Wouldn't you weld it shut and leave it at the bottom of the ocean? Yeah, Pandora, right. The passenger smirked in the darkness. Nowadays, that's a music service on the internet. Times change. The other so-called explanation says that there was this lady, yeah, again, a female, who ate the wrong piece of fruit. And what happened? Pain and suffering for everyone, all because a woman got hungry. How'd this story ever catch on? As silly as the one about a girl opening a box. Some dude gathered up all the bad luck in the universe, and instead of blowing it to smithereens like any sane person would, put it in a goddamn fruit? Oh, Eve and the apple. Now that's a classic. My people love that one. Heap all the blame and guilt on some woman's head. Typical. Then with a laugh, they named the feminine hygiene product after her. Carmelita looked out the driver's side window of the car, watching the garish lights of fast food places sliding by. Talking about eating fruit made her hungry. Do you think it's safe to stop for something to eat? No, her partner in crime said. I don't think that's a good idea. Not yet. Not until we are well out of the city. They kept driving. Wherever it came from in the first place, Carmelita thought, she knew her family had terrible luck. Her father, Glenmore, he had called it bad juju. He told her about how it hit his father, Granddaddy Bartholomew, back in Jamaica. Handsome and charming, Granddaddy Barth used to be the biggest numbers runner in Montego Bay. Selling numbers was a very lucrative and very illegal underground occupation in those days. Granddaddy hired folk from the slums to sell numbers to their neighbors all week. He then pulled the winning numbers every Friday night and delivered the cash prizes in person Saturday morning. Granddaddy Barth also sold lucky number dream books, magic candles, good fortune charms, and blessed water to help his customers pick the right numbers. Customers who won had inevitably used one of his dream books or charms, or so Granddaddy said. On the back of this simple enterprise, Granddaddy Barth built a fairy tale existence. He wore fine clothes, bought a house on the beach, drove a fancy car. He went to the fanciest parties, hobnobbed with reggae stars and politicians. He had lots of lady friends and made many babies. Good fortune poured over him like a waterfall on the Martha Brae River. Carmelita's companion liked that story. Your granddaddy was smart. Running a gambling joint is just about the easiest way to make money, as long as you know what you're doing. Then suddenly, overnight, Granddaddy Barth's luck had turned sour. The country decided to implement a national lottery. The illicit numbers business simply dried up and disappeared like a water drop on a hot skillet. Granddaddy Barth never recovered his mojo once the numbers game went legit. He lost the house, the car, the fancy friends. He ended up waiting on tourists, British, Germans, and Americans in a resort hotel, humiliating himself for tips. It was a terrible come down, but better than sewing clothes in a noisy, dirty factory or breaking his back in the hot sun on a coffee farm. Carmelita's father, Glenmore, remembered his daddy as a disappointed, bitter man with a string of angry women, including Glenmore's own mama, badgering him for his tip money to buy diapers, baby formula, school shoes. Carmelita had learned from her daddy Glenmore that legit work never pays. Not really. If you have to depend on a straight job to make your living, well, that is bad luck for sure. The passenger beside Carmelita agreed. Your daddy was right. I read somewhere that you can survive on a normal job, but only if absolutely everything goes your way for like 20 years straight. You work for the world's greatest boss, marry the perfect person, buy into the right neighborhood at the right time, never get sick, don't get screwed in a divorce, don't get laid off, don't get hit by lightning, don't get sued, don't speed and get pulled over by the cops when you have a dead person in your trunk. Yeah, I guess I better slow down, Carmelita said. I was going 20 over the speed limit. On Carmelita's mother's side, bad luck ran like water out of a busted drain pipe. Her mama, Beatriz, said it started with their ancestors back in Mexico. Quetzal, a Toltec noblewoman, was given in marriage to Guatemoc, an Aztec man from a powerful family. Quetzal bore Guatemoc many children, and then, it appears, the Aztec in-laws were done with her. When the youngest male child was about a year old and deemed strong enough to survive, the proud father, Guatemoc, appeared on the top of the Pyramid of the Sun for the spring festival, wearing the flayed skin of his wife, Quetzal, as a cloak. You can't scrape the hide off a Toltec noblewoman and walk away, so there was a war over that. But still, it doesn't get much worse than being killed and made into a windbreaker. Is that a true story? Carmelita's companion asked. True as anything, Carmelita replied, squinting at the road. More years of bad luck went by until one of Quetzal's descendants, a mestiza slave, disappeared with a chest of gold coins and her 2 children by the landowner. The rich man was found dead in one of his outbuildings, a large kitchen knife in his stomach. The wily woman had disguised herself in the clothes of her own mistress and had bribed the ship's captain with gold to take her and the children away from Spanish colonial Mexico to start a new life in Spanish colonial Cuba. Now that's what I'm talking about, Carmelita. There was a woman who took charge. She made her own luck. They kept driving and talking and driving. After several generations, Mama Beatrice's family had left their humble origins behind and were firmly ensconced in the upper echelons of Cuban sugar plantation society. Life was good for a while, and then the bad luck reared its head again like a horror movie monster. Not yet Mama Beatrice was 8 years old when her family flew from Havana to the United States to spend some sugar dollars on a lavish month-long vacation. First, a week of shopping in Miami, shipping their purchases from the finest stores back home to Cuba. Next, a week of sightseeing in New York City, visiting the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building. Then across the vast continent by rail to end their holiday in a newly opened amusement park, Disneyland. The family never got to see the Magic Kingdom. Shortly after arriving at the train station in Los Angeles, they discovered that the US-backed Batista government had been overthrown by Castro and his communist rebels. Relatives and friends still in Cuba were being arrested and jailed. Little Beatrice and her family were targeted by the new regime as enemies of the state. All their property, homes, businesses, land, automobiles appropriated by the government, their bank accounts frozen, their assets liquidated. The family took the Greyhound bus from California back to Miami. With English skills limited to dimly remembered private school lessons and the need to earn a basic living, the formerly wealthy Cuban exiles found themselves cleaning hotel rooms and washing dishes in restaurant kitchens. Beatrice eventually met Glenmore, a handsome immigrant from Jamaica. The couple had 2 children and supported them by selling merchandise of questionable origins. Carmelita and her brother, Daniel, grew up in a freewheeling environment of scrappy survivors living on the fringes of middle-class normality, bouncing between Miami's various Caribbean immigrant communities. Daddy Glenmore took his children along on his frequent trips to secret hidey holes in the swamplands northwest of the city to park stolen merchandise until things cooled off, returning to retrieve the items when he later wanted to sell them. That is where Carmelita and her companion were now heading, to one of those secret swamp hideaways with a dead body in the trunk. One day, Daddy Glenmore left, lured back to Jamaica by a highly lucrative new scam based on the country's national lottery. For a while, he sent money to help Beatrice out, but when he got a new woman and had more kids, the money stopped. Carmelita stayed out of trouble, but her brother Daniel became wild and ran with a gang. He got lots of tattoos and used drugs, was in and out of jail. Daniel became sick and was diagnosed with AIDS. He said he got it from an infected needle in prison, but Carmelita knew different. While visiting him in the public hospital, she had seen the name Bertrand tattooed inside a heart on her brother's chest. At Danielle's funeral, she saw the boyfriend sitting in a far corner at the back of the church, crying by himself. Shortly thereafter, Mama Beatriz also died of grief, so everyone said. Things like that happen to lots of people. Nothing to do with a curse. Your family wasn't singled out. Maybe not. But how do you explain why my mother's life was just one long suck? My brother's too. Everything went wrong. After her mother died, Carmelita was alone in the world. Social services placed her in a group home where she and a boy named Silvio became an item. She earned her GED certificate, got a series of low-paid, mindless, uninspiring jobs. One day, while putting in more applications at the local mall, Carmelita joined the crowd watching a man in a kiosk demonstrating glass blowing. It was fascinating how he could control the molten glass with a blowtorch and treat it like a liquid, swirling it quickly, magically, into colorful shapes, swans, hearts, stars, and flowers. He was middle-aged, ponytailed, and bearded, dressed like a leftover hippie in patched jeans and a leather vest. After his demonstration, the crowd pushed forward to buy his hand-blown glass gifts and ornaments, mostly smaller versions of the swans and so forth that he had made. Carmelita watched silently as the man wrapped up the delicate glass objects and rang up the purchases. She estimated that he had entranced the crowd for 15 minutes or so with his glass blowing and had then taken in several $100s in about 3/4 of an hour. There was definitely potential here. When the crowd had dispersed, Carmelita remained behind. The glass man put up a sign that promised, in puffy psychedelic lettering, next demonstration in 30 minutes. He noticed Carmelita standing alone, watching him, her arms folded across her chest. What do you want, miss? A pretty glass swan? He asked. Carmelita raised a skeptical eyebrow and pointed at the tiny swans swimming around little glass flowers on shaped mirrors. I want to know when you have time to make all those little versions of the big ones. Come here. The glass man beckoned her over. I can tell you have the heart of a scammer because I am one myself. He reached under the counter and pulled out a cardboard box. It was full of white tissue paper. He set it on the counter. Look in there. She did. Nestled in the paper were dozens of tiny glass swans. Carmelita picked up one carefully and turned it over. See the label stuck on the bottom? I get this shit for pennies a piece from Asia. In the 2 months before Christmas, I make about half my year's straight income. What do you do to earn your crooked income? Bongs and pipes, chica. Custom dope smoking paraphernalia. That's why I make most of my money on. He laughed and winked. Carmelita smiled back. She leaned on the counter and pointed at the cardboard box. You could move a lot more of this penny shit from Asia if someone started doing the selling while you were still doing your demonstration. Someone else, meaning a sharp young lady such as yourself? Yes. You have papers to work? Not that I care, since I would pay you in cash, but I'm supposed to ask. I can work legally. I'm good with numbers, and I have my high school equivalency. You're hired. Start tomorrow. Be here at 9 to help me set up. The mall store is open at 10. And so it began, the business partnership between the young Jamaican Cuban and the old hippie. In the kiosk, they looked like a magician and his attractive female assistant. The glass man moved a lot more merchandise with Carmelita ringing up the purchases while he did the glass blowing. Carmelita treated the ornaments like exotic treasures, wrapping the delicate glass pieces in tissue and placing them in small boxes with care, as if they were from the Ming Dynasty. After all, she remarked to him after $1,000 day during the holiday season, this is as close to a rare Chinese artifact that these folks are ever going to get. Time passed, and soon they had accumulated enough money to open a permanent gift shop in the mall. Now they sold year round while the glass man kept doing his glass blowing demos in a kiosk in front of the store. Carmelita helped to expand the business online and took care of the books, keeping 2 sets. One set was for the gift shop and the other for the paraphernalia business. She and her boyfriend, Silvio, moved out of the group home and into an apartment not far from the glass man's house. Carmelita suggested selling weed along with the glass paraphernalia. The glass man readily agreed. She didn't smoke, but Silvio did, and used his contacts to secure a regular supply of the drugs. The glass man gave Carmelita a set of keys to his place so she could deliver the marijuana whenever Silvio brought it home. Now they were running 3 businesses, each bringing in several $1,000s a month. But then the bad luck raised its head, this time in the form of a woman. As Marte Rose had driven down from New York and was living in her RV on the edge of the mall parking lot. She was thin, pale, frizzy-haired, and in her 40s. She wore gauzy, drapey clothes and lots of jewelry. When she talked, and she seemed to talk nonstop, her voice was artificially soft, her innocent brown eyes wide and credulous. Carmelita had once seen an old movie with the actress Marilyn Monroe in it. Asmarte talked like that, in a breathy whisper, childish and seductive at the same time. Within a week, Asmarte was parking her RV in the glass man's driveway, and a month after that, she had moved in with him. Carmelita was irritated with the woman from the first. Why the hell can't she speak up and talk like an adult, she thought to herself. Her behavior was obviously an act, a silly, contrived, phony persona, but the glass man seemed to buy it. Where Carmelita was hard-headed and believed in nothing, except in perhaps mala suerte, Asmarte professed to believe in absolutely everything. She carried on about yoga, astral projection, Kabbalah, tantric sex, acupuncture, goddess energy, natural foods, hypnosis, alien abductions, feng shui, alternate universes, Sasquatch. She said that she was a free spirit, just like the glass man. Her business card said wellness therapist. Of course, she endorsed the medical use of marijuana. Of course. One day, out of the blue, the glass man announced to Carmelita that Asmarte was going to run part of their enterprise. Not everything, he said, just the marijuana end of the business, which was currently having a setback. Carmelita had found out what she had suspected from secretive texts and phone calls, that her boyfriend, Silvio, had a long-time baby mama. After an ultimatum from Carmelita, he had left to move in with the woman and their 2-year-old child. Good riddance, but no more weed from him. It was just a matter of time until Carmelita secured a new supply. She saw no reason to turn the trade over to some ditzy flower child who had just rolled in from New York. It was the first disagreement she and the glass man had ever had. The money had been split 2 ways and now was going to be divided into 3. Carmelita knew that it would not end there. She determined that this woman, bringer of bad luck, had to go. Asmarte had taken to making a grayish brown yeasty substance in a bowl and leaving it in the glass man's fridge. Every evening, she would drain off some of the nasty looking liquid into a glass to drink and add more water to the bowl. She called it kombucha, claiming it was healthy. Carmelita had tasted it once and could not swallow more than a sip of the vile-smelling, sour-tasting fluid. It tasted of dirt and decay, like drinking a grave. A plan began to form. Carmelita knew what days each month the mall exterminators came. The next time they sprayed for roaches and put down poison to kill vermin, she followed them and quietly obtained a quantity of the rat poison. She tested it on some rats that had made a nest in the alley behind her building and found that it was indeed lethal. The rats died within minutes of eating the tainted food she set out. Choosing a time when she knew the glass man was going to be gone overnight visiting friends, she let herself into the kitchen and added the substance to Asmarte's kombucha bowl. After Esmarte drank her usual big glass of the stuff that evening, she would be dead. Carmelita only had to drag the body out to the woman's RV under cover of darkness, drive to her daddy Glenmore's secret swamp hideaway, and abandon the body there. Esmarte would become one of Miami's many missing persons, and the business would go on as before. Late that night, Carmelita returned to the glass man's house to find, as she had expected, a dead body lying stretched out on the kitchen floor. But it was not Esmarte. It was the glass man. The half-full kombucha bowl sat on the counter beside a glass with a bit of stuff still in the bottom. The glass man had apparently come home early and had drunk Esmarte's poisoned kombucha. Her mind in a whirl, she heard someone come into the house. Carmelita looked up in a panic, her hand flying through her throat. It was Esmarte. Next would come police, neighbors, jail. Carmelita should have known that it would all go wrong. It was the family curse. Esmarte stood in silence for several moments, looking up at the stricken Carmelita and down at the glass man's body on the floor. Then she spoke. "Is he dead?" she asked. Carmelita stammered, "It was an accident. Something was wrong with the kombucha." The other woman made a calming gesture. "What's done is done," she said. Her voice was pitched low, with a hard, flat inflection, totally unlike the irritating whispers she had affected as long as Carmelita had known her. Carmelita stared at the other woman. Esmarte said, "You thought it would be me, didn't you? I've had him drinking this stuff for a few weeks now. How could you have known?" She smirked. "I told him it would help his virility." She shrugged. "It didn't." Carmelita swallowed, her heart beating in her throat. Was her luck going to hold or give out? "Why aren't you calling the police?" she asked. "Because I go with the flow. The flow just turned away from this guy." She pointed at the man on the floor. "And is aimed in your direction. A two-way split is better than three ways, isn't it, sweet cakes? By the way, what were you going to do with my body?" I was planning to take it north to a hidden swamp place I know about," Carmelita said reluctantly. It was weird to talk about getting rid of Esmarte's body with her standing right there. "I was going to dump it out there." Since I only weigh a scrawny 145, you figured you could wrestle my carcass out of here by yourself." Esmarte was frowning absently, tapping her fingers on the table, like she was trying to decide whether they should order barbecue or Thai. Her face cleared. She had made up her mind. "Okay, we'll go on with your plan. He weighs about 275, so it'll take both of us to handle him. It's dark enough now. I'll get his keys and you can pull his car around back." The two women unzipped an old sleeping bag, rolled the glass man up in it, and carried him down the back stairs. Once he was safely locked in the trunk, they returned to clean the kitchen, thoroughly scrubbing the floor and flushing the remaining poison kombucha down the john. They each threw a change of clothes and a spare pair of shoes in a backpack, put the kombucha bowl and glass into a plastic trash bag in the back seat, and took off for the swamplands, a 3-hour drive away. As she drove, Carmelita told Esmarte about Quetzal and her grandfather Bartholomew, about her father Glenmore leaving them, and about her brother Daniel dying, about Mama Beatriz, who never got to see Disneyland. All the family stories of mala suerte and misfortune. Carmelita left out the part about how much she had disliked Esmarte Rose when they first met. That was probably self-evident. After all, she had tried to poison the woman. Esmarte told Carmelita that bad luck was bullshit. "You make your own luck in this world," she said. "Life is 90% chance and 10% genetics. And that 10% genetics, that's chance too. Nobody gets to choose the hand they get dealt at birth, but everyone gets to play that hand out. Look at me. My real name, Rosie Lorraine Schulman. That's where I got the Rose part. I saw the word Esmarte on an old perfume bottle in a thrift shop, and I thought, that's me, as smart as anyone else. My ancestors came from crappy, stinking villages in the rich cabbage and turnip lands of Eastern Europe. Every few years, some bastard's army would tromp through and kill everyone who couldn't run away fast enough. The borders changed hands so many times, people didn't know what the hell their religion or nationality would be the next month. You don't get much worse bad luck than being born into that. Only difference between your people and mine is that my slave ancestors froze while they starved. So what did they do to make their own luck? Bought themselves some forged papers with different names so the Nazis or the Cossacks or who the hell ever couldn't find them, got on a boat and started making bank as soon as they got to New York. Folks will want them deported. They try that today. Damn straight. What if following rules ever done for them but get them stepped on by the people who made up the rules? My people did whatever they had to do to survive and taught their kids to do the same. They couldn't afford to believe in good or bad luck. So here we are, you and me, kiddo. We are making our own luck with a dead man in the trunk. Can you believe this mess? As Marte laughed. Carmelita laughed too, the absurdity of their situation vying with the lingering shock to create a feeling of near hysteria. You may be right, Esmarte, she said. This just may turn out to be my lucky day. An hour more of driving passed. The travelers decided it was safe to get some food, gas up, stretch their legs. Carmelita was bemused at how glibly the professed health nut Esmarte ordered meals from the fast food menu by number. When candy bars, snack cakes, and bags of chips from the gas station convenience store appeared in the car, Carmelita had to comment, "Isn't this stuff bad for you?" "What?" Esmarte responded. "You expected fresh squeezed juice and organic produce from a 7-Eleven?" Then it was back on the road and more driving toward the fringes of the Everglades. They planned their future on the road. No reason for us to spend 20 to life in prison for wanting to make a living, right? So here's what we gotta do. First, we get to your daddy's swamp and leave this poor guy there. He's dead and there's nothing will change that. Second, we go back to Miami and go on with business as usual. After a few weeks, we report him missing. Carmelita was getting into the spirit of the thing. She added, third, we get rid of all those stupid glass trinkets. Shit wasn't selling anyway, and the store was starting to look more like what it really is, a dusty front for hippies selling weed. I like how you think, Carmelita. Fourth, we rebrand the shop to carry new agey merchandise instead, keeping the weed business going strong on the side. We live simply, save our money, pay our taxes, donate to the animal shelter, volunteer at the food bank, and keep our noses clean. And fifth, Carmelita said, when we have enough scratch to retire, we pack up and buy a bed and breakfast hotel in a nice warm place like Mexico or Jamaica. Exactly. I always knew you were the brains of the operation. We'll be sitting pretty until they legalize weed in this state. Gotta plan ahead so we don't get caught with our pants down like your granddaddy when they legalized the lottery. I figure we have about 10 years max before Amazon is home delivering cannabis cookies by drone. In one of the alternate universes that Esmarte, Rose, did not really believe in, the two women reached the hidden swampland and dragged the sleeping bag wrapped body from the trunk. With the car's headlights creating a circle of visibility, the conspirators carried the body out to the edge of a pond and waded into the slimy, dark water waist deep, pushing it out as far as they dared go. They climbed onto the pond's muddy edge and watched the sleeping bag, a pair of sandaled white feet sticking out one end, slowly sink into the murky depths. Back at the car, the women changed into the dry clothes they had brought with them, bagging up the sodden, smelly ones, discarding them in another pond nearby. They hid the bag with the poison kombucha materials in yet another swampy pool. Then they drove back to Miami, where they took long, hot showers. They never spoke of that awful night again and managed, just as they had outlined on that fateful night, to successfully convert their front business from low-end gifts to upscale new age products. Hemp yoga mats from Nepal, books on connecting with past lives, probiotic vegan energy bars, scented oils to combat the stresses of modern life, anti-aging herbal teas that flushed out wrinkle-producing toxins. Within a decade, cannabis legalization finally dried up their weed business, as Esmarte had predicted. The partners had amassed several $100,000 in each of many offshore accounts. They sold the new age shop at cost to 3 earnest polyamorous tech zillionaires and bought a B&B in the Yucatan on the Caribbean coastline. In that universe, you can find Carmelita and our Suerte Rose living the good life, drinking pina coladas with cute college boys from the Midwest, enjoying late seafood suppers on the beach with handsome retired Brazilian soccer stars, and arranging day trips to the Mayan ruins for wealthy European tourists. However, we are in this universe, the one where, about 2 hours out of Miami, with Esmarte now behind the wheel, the right front tire blew. The car swerved and limped up under the shoulder of the road. A state trooper patrol car pulled up behind them within minutes, the rotating roof light illuminating the night. The female trooper got out first and approached the driver's side. Carmelita and Esmarte sat stone-faced and sweating in the sudden closeness of the car, contemplating their all too brief future as free citizens. The officer asked for license and registration. Lorraine Schulman from New York and Miami pulled her ID from her wallet, while Carmelita rummaged in the glove compartment and found the glass man's car registration. The other trooper got out of the patrol vehicle and stood on the passenger side while his partner inspected the documents. "This car is registered to a Jack Albanini, a friend's car?" she asked. "Yes, officer, just borrowing it for the evening." "Well, we don't see any reason to let this flat tire hold you ladies up. If you would pop your trunk latch, Miss Schulman, my partner and I could help you change your tire, and then you can be on your way. Lucky for you both that we were passing by, huh?" She leaned down and smiled at the women in the car. In an alternate universe, but no, not this time. The trooper lady was going to open the trunk and let all the bad luck out into the world, thought Carmelita. Then the two women in the dead glass man's car would indeed be on their way to prison for murder. Quetzal, Beatriz, Bartholomew, Danielle, Carmelita, the glass man, the very unfortunate Jack Albanini. Now Lorraine Schulman, AKA Esmarte Rose. Yes, bad luck was inherited. It was also contagious.
Wow. You can unmute and cheer or do a sign language cheer or wow. Wow.
That was riveting.
Not how it
I could
ends.
drink my tea.
After all those voices, you need some tea.
This concludes the recorded reading part of this event.